Hello everyone, welcome aboard. So again, we have brought you the next session of the daily current affairs, and today we will be discussing about the current affairs of 1st October, and this session has been brought to you by Himalaya IS classes. So let's get started. First two news items, one is about LAC, line of actual control. This is different than LOC, which is on India-Pakistan border. LAC is at India-China border. Okay, I'll show you in a map as well. And another topic of today's newspaper is about Quad. So let's take a look at these topics one by one. So see, the LAC, line of actual control, is the line which demarcates the controlling territory of both the countries. Okay, like India and China. It's different than the McMahon line. Okay, which is the official boundary of India and China. So this LAC actually, sometimes you would hear about the news that some incidents between the soldiers of both the sides. It keeps happening. So that's where until and unless we do not reach a boundary agreement, these things will keep happening. The only way to prevent these incidents is to follow the border agreements which is there between India and China to resolve such issues. You would have earlier seen in 2017 there was Doklam standoff, then Galwan Valley clashes between both the countries. Also, there was another article by S. Jayashankar, who's the foreign minister of India, that see, handling China for India, it's not that we are going to create a military alliance all over the world, like we'll be using Quad or something like NATO to counter China. Handling China for everyone is bilateral. So this is a multipolar world, and we must handle China with our own conditions or our own situations. It's not like we should create a grouping, okay, to counter China. So Quad is not against someone. That's what that was the context whether he was referring to. These points will help you, to write your answers when it comes to international relations. Okay, international relations. It is part of GS paper 2 in mains. And for prelims, you must remember where is LAC. So let me just show you. This is the picture. So this is the official boundary, which is known as McMahon line, but actually this line goes from here and then some areas. So total there are like 23 areas which are, let's say, under Indian control but claimed by China. They are spreaded across Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and in Arunachal Pradesh as well. So these areas, that's where mostly the problems or the confrontation between the soldiers that is happening. So this has to be avoided, and for that we must follow our border agreement. So what are the existing border agreements between India and China? Please do remember them from prelims as well as mains, both point of view. In 1993, there is an agreement on peace and tranquility along the line of actual control on Sino-Indian border. In 1996, there is another agreement between India and China on CBM, confidence building measure, means measures which are taken up so that they don't feel suspicious about each other when they are doing their patrolling and other activities in the military field. Also, there is a 2005 protocol on modalities for the implementation of confidence building measures in the military field for the same. And in 2013, there is a border defense cooperation agreement as well between India and China. So these are the official agreements between the two countries which must be followed for avoiding such clash situations. Okay, India-China official border is McMahon line, what you're seeing here in the map. Please do remember that in the prelims, map points can be there. You must know all the passes. All of this you will be reading in the geography classes. Okay. Next important article today, it's about Quad, and it covers almost everything about Quad. So this was a really good topic, and it has a lot of content which you can use if there is a question about Quad. Quad has been also asked in 2020 mains of UPSC examination. That means the last mains for which the final results have come out. So Quad, as we all know, it's a alliance of India, USA, Australia, and Japan. Okay, to ensure peace and freedom of trade in the Indo-Pacific region. So the focus area of Quad is Indo-Pacific. You can look in the map like these countries, they are the one on one of the fringes of the Indo-Pacific region. India is in the Eastern Indian Ocean, US is on the Pacific side, Australia is on the Pacific side, and Japan is again on the Pacific side. So it's first this year when our Prime Minister was traveling to USA, first in person. Till now, all the virtual summits have happened. The first time in person summit has happened in Washington. So what were the outcomes of this meeting? So there was a commitment to free and open Indo-Pacific, which is also inclusive. That means includes everybody, leaving no one behind. Okay, all the countries can participate in the free trade, which will happen in the Indo-Pacific. See, this region accounts for almost 80% of the world trade. And resilient means it cannot be disrupted easily. It has to be secured. Also, the Quad should work towards promoting prosperity and security in the region. Now, what are the new areas of collaboration that were decided in this Washington summit? So infrastructure, cybersecurity and space, education, and people-to-people contacts. These were some new areas which were identified for cooperation. Let's look at them one by one. Like infrastructure, so we must create or we must work towards a sustainable infrastructure. See, what is sustainable? Sustainable is something which will survive for long, which can, sustainable development you would have heard. So where you do not compromise the ability of future, what we have in the present. So sustainable is which can sustain itself for a long run. So in that, they will comply themselves to the build back better world approach. Now, this is how UPSC loves to ask questions. So see, they will ask you like recently seen in news, build back better world approach is associated with what? Although Quad is, aligning itself with build back better world, it's about sustainable infrastructure. That's the first thing, and this has came from B3W, build back better, W for world, G7 countries. Okay. If when you will read about the disaster management, there also you will read this term build back better. There it comes for the disaster risk management, whatever initiatives has been taken under Sendai framework. Okay, so build back better world is about sustainable infrastructure, climate resilient infrastructure. There are 4 pillars of B3W. Okay, do remember that: digital connectivity, climate resilient, health security, as well as gender equality infrastructure. Okay, so build back better world, it's an approach towards sustainable infrastructure building, and this is in principle as agreed by G7 countries. G7 grouping is the grouping of most developed countries of the world, economically which are most developed. India is not a part of G7. Okay, and these countries, they have opted this principle, and because it's for global good, it's such a good principle that this has been approved by the Quad members as well, that we will also follow our infrastructure development along the same line. Okay, so after infrastructure, let's move to the another area, which is cyber security and space. So see, combating cyber threat, it's very important for all the countries, because it's not a warfare on the physical grounds or air or water, right? Somebody sitting in India or somebody sitting in any part of the world, he can threaten anything. And in combating cyber threat, the most important thing is securing critical infrastructure. What is critical infrastructure? Your banking system, the health security system, your defense information system, the communication system. All these things are very critical. They have to be up and running 24/7 for functioning of general services for the people. So that is called as critical infrastructure. So that has to be secured from any type of cyber threat. Then we must collaborate on new opportunities in space technology. This is the new area. Both are actually new areas which has been added to the Quad, like sharing the data what we get from our satellites to monitor the events occurring from climate change. Climate change is very, very important topic you will be reading in your EVS classes. Okay, You will also read in space technology in the science classes that how the space technology or remote sensing satellites, okay, or geostationary satellites, they are utilized for collecting data from the earth and its atmosphere. So that's where it helps us to predict. So this prediction also helps us for disaster preparedness. We can give early warning for floods, for cyclones, for storms, and also it can help us in quick response. See, quick disaster avoiding is very difficult given the threat of climate change, but the loss which will occur from disaster, that can be minimized if our response is very, very quick. Then also we must use the data which we can have from space technology for sustainable use of natural and marine resources. See, again, word sustainable means if you're using it today, you should leave something for the future generation as well. We should use in such a way that it is available for all the coming generations, not like we will use and after 100 years nobody can use that natural resource or marine resource. Okay, so all of these concepts will be very clear once you complete your EVS classes. Next article is about education. So STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These are the basic sciences which where the collaboration will occur. Also, scholarship will be provided to the students for exchange student programs and going and reading in other countries. When it comes to the climate change, we must work towards the climate ambition like clean energy innovation. See, clean energy means energy which does not emit greenhouse gases, okay, or renewable sources of energy. For example, as of now, most of our energy, 70% of our energy comes from coal, burning of coal, right? So that is problematic because burning of coal, it emits various harmful gases, which produces global warming, in turn, which is responsible for climate change. All these concepts comes from EVS. Now, climate adaptation and resilience. See, climate change is occurring, so there will be some bad impacts of the climate change. And now, if we can't stop it, at least we can adapt it ourselves. Okay, make our infrastructure or our way of life more resilient towards these changes which are supposed to happen in the climate. Okay, then they have also decided to try to achieve net zero emission. That means we will not emit any extra carbon dioxide. We will emit only that much which we can absorb. See, absorption of carbon dioxide occurs by green sources like forest or blue sources like ocean. Okay, and emission occurs mostly by burning of fossil fuels. So there has to be a balance. Whatever we are absorbing, we should not emit more than that. Then only the global warming can stop. So all these countries have decided to target the net zero emission by 2050. Then also the green shipping network, the shipping routes which are not very threatening to the climate or marine resources, also the green port infrastructure, which is environment friendly as well. See, these are really good points which you can use for Quad. And even if the question is not about Quad, it's about India's effort, what they are doing, then also you can use these points. Okay. Then there will be also cooperation in the Quad countries on the critical and emerging technologies. For example, fifth generation networks, which trial is being going on. Beyond 5G networks, what after 5G, how we can improve the communication, supply chain and critical minerals. Supply chain is like what input you get, raw material, capital goods, and then you start creating your products, like semiconductor supply chain. It's one initiative in the Quad, which is there already. Also, there will be cooperation among the countries on biotechnology. So again, see, biotechnology will be a biotechnology and 5G. This is both about science and technology, which you'll be reading. Then on the political sides, what will Quad be doing? So in the political side, the countries like India, Australia, US and India, Japan already has 2+2, means two ministry. They meet on continuous basis every year, bilateral ministerial conferences. Okay, so that will help the coordination between the countries on bilateral Malabar exercise. All the Quad countries are members of it. Okay, there are other engagements. For example, AUKUS, we have heard about it a lot. India is not there, but still, let's say Australia and US is there. So half of Quad is already there. So these are other engagements which will help the strategic alliance Quad does not want to become Asian NATO. Very clearly, it says that it doesn't want to become a military alliance. Okay. NATO is a military alliance which was formed during the Cold War period. Okay. It also wants to cooperate with the ASEAN, which is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. India is not a part of it. Okay, please check about it in the maps. ASEAN is a grouping of 10 countries. It is at the heart of Indo-Pacific, and Quad wants to coordinate with that. Also, it wants to cooperate with the EU. EU or European Union has also released. See, the point here is that Quad doesn't want to be alone. It wants to get engaged in meaningful dialogue with all the global and regional partners as well. On the Afghanistan issues, they'll be closely coordinating their policies. Now, see, all the things which you have discussed in the past few slides, they were about the outcomes of the Washington summit of the Quad. Okay, so you can expect a question on that. If not, then also you must keep that in mind that Quad is, first big grouping in past few years what India has joined as a strategic alliance. Okay, and institutionalization of Quad has begun to gather speed. Means things are moving. We are coordinating and cooperating on various issues, as we saw that we are working on the cooperation in the infrastructure sector, on the political facets as well. We are working in close cooperation in technology and climate response. So these are the cooperation areas which have emerged in the Washington summit. Moving to the next, failing on food. So in the last lecture also we have discussed about it. Malnutrition is becoming a big problem. So malnutrition was already a problem, but again COVID-19 came and that has worsened the situation. So a new scheme has been launched which is called PM Poshan Abhiyan. It was approved by Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. It is chaired by the Prime Minister of India and it will continue till 2025 and 26. So the malnutrition problem has been worsened due to COVID situation. You have seen the supply chain or the services were disrupted. People migrated from one place to the other. Economic activities were hampered. Okay. So because of that, this challenge has become bigger. So now under this PM Poshan Abhiyan, what will be the things government will be doing? So there is already a midday meal or hot meal program. It will be supplemented with the nutritional products. There will be additional nutritional value addition in the aspirational district. So aspirational district, it's a scheme which has been launched by Niti Aayog, where 115 most backward districts of India, there they will work on the development indicators and try to convert them into model districts. Okay, this is a really good scheme. This was asked in the mains as well. Then extending it to pre-primary children. Till now, midday meal program was for class 1 to 8. Okay. Earlier, it was only from 1 to 8. Now, even the pre-primary education that has been included in the new education policy, as we all know. Then this pre-primary children, they will be also included in this hot meal program. Then it provides for social audit. Now, what is social audit? Social audit is one you would read in polity about CAG's audit. Okay, there is an official government agency which is known as CAG, which audits the financial transaction. Social audit is audit by the people. Social audit is audit by the people, and they will be told that, okay, what is the objective of the program? And because they are the beneficiaries of the program, they have to decide whether program has met with success or not. Okay. Also, they will be creating school nutrition gardens. So some vegetables and few things which can be grown inside the school areas. Then farmer producers organizations, they will be also included in this program as suppliers. Okay, so local area farmers, they will be provided with the opportunity that they can supply the vegetables and the ingredients which are needed for it. Emphasis will be on the local food tradition. So if you are in, let us say, Karnataka, emphasis on the Karnataka food. If you are in, let us say, in Maharashtra, then the emphasis on the local food of that area, because that has evolved and that suits to the need of the people who are living there. Now, this all sounds very good, but the real success of this PM Poshan Abhiyan, it depends on the budgetary allocation. See how much funds can be allocated for that, and in how much time, how much we can reduce this child malnutrition threat. So this was about the schemes related to health and education. Schemes related to health and education. Prelims, it's straightforward. Schemes can come, and schemes related to health and education, they are part of GS paper 2. Always remember that. So that's where you can fit in this thing in mains. Now, making parties constitutional. This article, it belongs to polity. Okay, when it comes to the prelims, and if when you talk about mains, it comes to GS paper 2. Okay. So see, in India, constitution doesn't mention any type of party. A political party is an organized group of citizens who hold common views on governance. Governance is how decisions should be taken and implemented in a society. Okay, so political party, if you belong to one, that means all members of your party, they hold some common belief system. Okay, they act as a political unit to obtain the control of the government. You take, for example, any parties, they will contest elections and they will try to win, right? They are the indispensable link between people and representative machinery of the government. Okay, they are extra constitutional bodies in India. In Germany, they are constitutional body. The only law which deals with the parties in India is Section 29 of Representation of People's Act 1951. Again, you'll be reading this in your polity class. That's the only section which deals with the regulation of party, that they have to be a true allegiance to the Constitution of India, and they have to adhere by the principle of secularism, socialism, or fundamental rights which are mentioned in the Constitution. Apart from that, there is no law or constitutional article dealing with their regulation. Political parties in the developed societies, for example, like United States or UK, they have high level of internal democracy. It's not like anybody who become the party president can do whatever he want. But in India, parties are caste based. You can take examples of various regional parties. Sometimes they promote regionalism, okay, which is against the interest of integrity of the nation. Their finances, you take any party from small to big, no matter whichever it is, their finances are always dubious, and they might come from, you know, unauthorized sources, from black money, from corporate lobbies. Also, if you look at the parties, they are family fiefdom, means, you know, father son and son, they will just keep continuing. So these are the real challenges in the political party system in India, and you cannot do away with them. The only way out is to reform these parties, and that's why this article basically says that why not give a constitutional status to the parties, so that they can be, you know, regulated by means of law. It's a very good example whenever there is a question about what can be done about the party politics in India. In the GS paper 2, you can always use these points. This is a good input. Also for prelims, do remember that Section 29 of RPA Act 1951, it's about the regulation of political parties. Moving to the next, urban missions. Okay, some schemes related to urban areas, they will get a big outlay. So syllabus wise, urban missions, again, these are schemes where it is important for you in the prelims. When it comes to the mains, so urban issues are part of GS paper 1. Okay, the first paper of general studies, issues related to urbanization. So here, basically, Swachh Bharat Mission Urban, it has two components. One is urban, other is for rural area. So for urban, version 2 is being launched. And for Amrut, again, Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, second version is being launched. So let's take a look what is the difference between first version and second version. So the basic theme is from transformation. Earlier, we wanted to, you know, transform the existing problems of urban areas. Now we want to saturate, like we want to achieve as much as possible. This is very vague, so let's take a look at them one by one. As Swachh Bharat Mission Urban first version, it was about construction of toilets and making India open defecation free. Now the second version of Swachh Bharat Mission Urban, it's about making better facilities, what we have already made, reclaiming all the landfills, all the garbage or solid waste, whatever, wherever we are, you know, putting it, that has to be, you know, reclaimed again. and 100% processing. As of now, there is 70% processing of municipal solid waste. Now we have to achieve 100% processing of municipal solid waste. Same way, let's take a look at Amrut Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation. Amrut 1 phase was extended to 500 cities. Now 2 is extended to every city. And it's about getting universal coverage of water supply to everyone. In the rural areas, we will also try to converge the Jal Jeevan Mission, which has been launched by Jal Shakti Ministry, and Swachh Bharat Mission Rural for rural areas. So the basic objective here, it's going to make cities garbage free and water secure, means everybody has access to safe drinking water. Moving to the last item of today, it's about India-Australia Free Trade Pact. Okay, it's under discussion. They haven't done it, but they plan to conclude it by 2022. Okay, so both the countries have decided to conclude a free trade agreement by 2022. Bilateral trade could be doubled if we sign this agreement. Now, for us, unless they don't join, this will not be asked in the prelims. But free trade have been asked in the prelims many times, so you must know what is it. See, these two countries in the normal trade, what happens? There will be a lot of tariff barriers. Okay, in the economy, you will read about it that countries have tariff, non-tariff barriers. When there is a free trade pact between the two countries, they eliminate tariff and non-tariff barriers. FTA partners, so for example, in this India and Australia, they will get easy market access into one another. So Australian goods can be sold easily without being subjected to tariff or non-tariff barriers. Indian goods can be sold in Australia easily without being subjected to tariff or non-tariff barriers. Exporter prefers FTA to multilateral trade liberalization because they get preferential treatment over non-FTA member. So for example, if Australia doesn't have, let's say, free trade pact with China, but it has with India, so they will always prefer India for their export or import. Possibility of increased foreign investment from outside in the FTA. So when some business will boom up between the two countries, the investment will also start flowing across these borders. So free trade pact is reducing the barriers of trade between the two countries. Okay, so India and Australia are negotiating it, and they are planning to complete it by 2022. So keep an eye on the free trade pact, because in past years we have seen UPSC always ask, like, once they conclude with the ASEAN, we were trying to negotiate RCEP, but it couldn't be finalized. With the European Union, we are discussing BTIA, bilateral trade and investment agreement, so that is going on negotiations. So it's not just Australia, we are trying to have a free trade pact with many countries. With the UAE as well, we are targeting this free trade pact. We have already discussed this in one of our lectures. So keep an eye for these things. Okay, this is part of economy, as well as you can use it in the international relation question as well if it comes. So that was all for this session, guys. Hope all of you have liked the session. And please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. And we will see you soon in the next lecture. Thanks for watching.